One of the important things for a community is the decision-making process. For this, we have chosen sociocracy. Sociocracy is different from democracy. In democracy, decision is made by consensus. So if 51% agree, then the rest 49% can go to hell. And that is not good for a community. In sociocracy, decision is made by 100% consent. What does that mean? It's difficult to get 100% consent. Correct? It's not consensus, but consent. So this it means that a member may not agree to the decision being made fully, but is okay to live with it. So let's give an example. Now we say that in this community, there's no use of chemicals. And the person might feel, oh, by using chemicals, they could get a better yield of the crop they want. But we are doing organic farming. And we have also made known that chemicals destroy the living organisms in the soil. And the soil becomes dead. On a dead soil, you cannot grow crops that are living. You can, but they are not really contributing to the health of a person. So by explaining these things, if the member feels that yes, with chemical farming the yield is more but the soil is dying, while with organic farming sometimes the yield can be more as well. It's helping a better healthy lifestyle. Then they say yes, okay. They are not fully in tune with it, but they are okay to live with it. Correct. Same is true for smoking. So we are trying to have a community where there is no smoking, no alcohol, and no drugs. So member might say, oh my God, I can't live without smoking. And then we can explain to them the harmful effects of smoking, and we can say, okay, in the community space, you cannot smoke. But if you want, you can go and smoke outside the entire community. And the person might say, oh, okay, I find it a little bit painful, but whenever I do smoke, at least there's an option to go outside. So I don't agree with it fully, but I'm willing to live with it. That is what sociocracy means. In addition, sociocracy has a decision-making process whereby the leaders are selected and voted by the members themselves. Okay? Each circle is known as circles. So let's say we have a circle for water management. So each project or task has different circles. And typically a circle will have 8 to 10 members. Again, we don't want to have too many members. That's why sociocracy works at a small level. And in the case of sociocracy, every member knows other members. Correct? So when we look at the EBHLE environment, we will have about 800 members on a larger scale. So there will be 300 learners that we have. Each, as we said, there will be 10 learners per home. So we'll have 30 pods. Each pod will have host parents, that is 2 per pod. 2 host grandparents, again 2 per pod. 4 guests. And in terms of learning, we are going to have a learner to guide ratio of 5:1. So there will be 1 guide for every 5 learners. So in this case, we'll have 60 guides. So we have got 60 host parents, 60 host grandparents, 60 guides, and 300 children. So that is 480. Plus, as we said, we could have 4 volunteers or guests per pod. So that's 120. That makes it a total of 600. And then we'll have 80 families living around there. And if you take an average of 2 per family, let's say it could be more, that itself is 160. So that makes it 760. So we're talking about a community of 800 people. And these 800 people, it's a good enough size, and most likely everybody will know the other in this particular community. So therefore, it's a environment in which the social environment is there like a family, and therefore sociocracy can work. Now we'll have teams of 10 in the working committees. There could be people who don't want to be part of the working committee, and therefore they are there outside as participants providing input, but not actively playing a role in a working committee. Each working committee will have about 8 to 10 members, and these members will elect their own facilitator. Okay? The way it works is a voting takes place. First of all, there's an interim facilitator who parts ballots to, let's say there are 10 members, to those 10 members. On each ballot, the member is supposed to write their name and the name of the facilitator that they want to choose. Once all the 10 are done, the interim facilitator collects those ballots and reads out. So let's say he says Asmuk has voted Ram as a facilitator. The other person says, my name is Sarvanan and I have voted Jayaprakash as a facilitator. And a third one has also voted Ram as a facilitator. A fourth one has voted Hasmukh as a facilitator. And so on, the ballots are collected. And the one that has got the highest number voted is then asked to see if they want to become the facilitator. Now, these 10 members might nominate someone to be the facilitator, but that person himself or herself may not want to be one. Then they have the option to say, sorry, I don't want to take up this role. But if they want to, then other members can sort of convince them, see, we find you to be good and you'll be beneficial, you will learn and so on. And maybe that person can be convinced to take up that role. But if not, then a ballot is passed around again. But also what is done is every member in the second round is given the option to change, correct? So when somebody is nominated by a person, they have to also give the reason why, okay? I can say, oh, I elect Ram to be the facilitator because he works hard, he has been working in the advertisement field and therefore in his workspace, he knows how to manage things, he's a good project manager and so on. And then other people know of qualities that they were not aware of the persons who are nominated and can change. So after a second round, a change occurs, and in the third round again, they calculate how many ballots have been done and a selection can be made. So this can take about 2-3 rounds. So initially, it takes some time. So similarly, a facilitator is nominated. Then an administrator who takes care of making notes of the minutes of the meeting that are taking place, action items and follow-up. So that is the role of the administrator. So we have a facilitator, we have an administrator, then we have an operations manager. The operations manager takes the decisions of that particular circle to the next higher circle. Okay. So the next higher circle is made up of operations manager, and also each circle has something known as the circle leader. Okay, so that is sort of the champion of the circle, and that also goes to the next higher circle. So the next higher circle is made up of operations managers and circle leaders. The operations manager's job is to carry the vote and the decision and the concerns of his or her circle to the next higher circle. And whatever discussions that take place in the next higher circle are brought back to the circle by the circle leader. So that way, by having two people, we eliminate bias. If there is one person, the person may not bring the true decision back to this circle. And by having the circle leader bring back the decision, if the circle leader again misrepresents, the operations manager can correct at that time and keep vigilance. So there is a feedback mechanism of this. And therefore, by going to the next higher circle, then again there are high circles and so on up to the board. So there is a hierarchy which is there in sociocracy, but in terms of decision making, everybody's voice is heard and everybody's concern is heard. And that's why this is a good decision making process for an environment like the EBHLE community. And by doing so, we are trying to create a model for others to follow. In a community or in any environment, even families, conflicts happen. It is important to resolve those conflicts in an amicable and non-violent manner. So there is something known as non-violent communication, NVC. So we're going to use NVC for conflict resolution. NVC believes that conflict occurs because of unmet needs. And when those unmet needs are thought through and made aware of, then conflicts can be resolved. NVC was a process started by Marshall Rosenberg, and he gives an example. There was a person, an elderly lady, who came to one of his workshops, and she said she hated cooking, but she was made to cook. She was forced to cook at her home, and because nobody was willing to cook. So Marshall told her, this evening when you go back home, you tell them you don't like cooking and you're not going to cook at all. She did that, but he wanted to know what happened. So 2 weeks later, her 2 sons, who were grown up by then, came to attend again Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication workshop. He asked those sons, did your mother say that she is not going to cook, that she doesn't like to cook and she's fed up of cooking? And the two sons said yes. Then he asked them, what happened? He said, everybody was so happy. Nobody liked her cooking. So you can see that there was an unmet need, but because it was not communicated, it did not go up well, and it created conflict in the mother and in the family as well, because nobody liked her cooking. There were others who wanted to do the cooking, but they felt that if they did, they would upset the mother. Now everything happens. So non-violent communication is just communicating what your needs are and seeing the response. So by doing so, we are doing conflict resolution and also decision making through sociocracy.